So today we're talking about a 50-cent item. That's usually what I pay for these. We're going to talk about what they are, what you can do with them, and what they sell for. Hey, it's Don. Today we're going to talk about another item that I run into, and I do run into these fairly frequently. Now, you've seen them in my videos. I talk about them fairly often. You can find them for anything. Now, this is a emptied paperweight. This is the glass portion of a paperweight, and here's one so you can see exactly what a glass paperweight like this would be. And this has an image. Most of the ones that I buy, that I like, that I turn around and swap and resell for really good money are advertising. Now, this is a quack one. This one I purchased from someone at the Springfield, Ohio flea market. Very, very large one. I've got quite a few videos on that, but this one here has a few issues. We're going to address some of those, some things you can do with this area with paperweights in general. I would honestly recommend, if you've never messed with something like this before, would be to look on eBay and Terapeak and just type in paperweight in the collectibles section. Now, you're going to see some buttons because there's a button style called paperweight. So you'll see a few other things. There's some electronic devices. I think there's something tied to a fax that you may see, paperweight, and a few other things like that. Now, I pick up these quite often. These are blank, empty ones. There's nothing in them. It's just basically a hunk of clear glass. And what they would have had in them, again, is an image like this in the center of these. These are just three different styles or three different shapes of what you would run into out there in the wild. I, again, usually pay 50 cents for these empty ones. This one actually has nothing in it. It's just a glass, basically almost a magnifier. Here's one that a piece of paper of some sort was placed in it. I don't think it belongs to it. And it has a cavalry scene, probably from the time of the Indian Wars era. Now, with the one that I bought the other day at the huge flea market, it has some issues with it. The glass itself has some dings and some scratches to it. These can be repaired. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it. But things like that can be buffed out of these, and you'd never, ever have a concern about it at all. The back has some issues. Most of the time, again, there would be a piece of felt on the back, so it's not going to damage the table. It's a buffer zone. Usually, again, it's those three colors, green, red, or blue, are what I see in almost every one of these, green being the most common one. This one in good condition because it's for quack medicine, and this is P.P. Van Vliet, and he's the Van Vliet Manfield Drug Company owner, CEO, and founder. So that is the gentleman on here. And that's the only reason I bought this. I think I paid $8 or $10 for it at this point. I don't really remember. It's written down in my paperwork, but we get a lot of stuff, so sometimes it's hard to. But you can see the sticker on this one here. This one came from a thrift store. While we were at that flea market, there was a thrift store near our hotel. That was 50 cents. Again, I pick these up all the time for 50 cents. Once in a while, I may pay $1 for an empty rounded one because these can be used for many things. It magnifies. So you could sell these as a domed magnifier as well. Now, the empty ones with nothing in them, I get 10, 15 bucks for them all day long. I usually put them up for $19.99 and list them as a vintage glass paperweight. Make your own original or something like that. It just depends. Sometimes I fill something in the inside. Please see description in the condition box so that they know that, hey, it's been put back together or whatever the case. I replaced the felt so it's completely usable. That's another term I may add to one of these. Now, most of them are different in some way, shape, or form. It's great to find the exact same one. Sometimes I'll be able to buy one that's trashed out just for the felt on the bottom for $1, even if the glass may be shot. It's good to have the original felt, and you can put stuff back together. Again, you can do any of that kind of stuff. You can repair it. You can write it down as long as you state that. Don't mislead anybody. There are some standard sizes of these as well. So if you've ground it down or done something, they're going to be able to tell if they're really into paperweights. Some people just want a vintage paperweight with a vintage image, or again, people will buy the empty ones, the blank ones, just like this, to create their own or to repair one. Let's say this had a photo in the back that I could take off. This is actually printed on it, so I can't take it off. But in many cases, there's a photo jammed in here. You can just take that off and swap it with an empty one of these, or a trashed out image in one, or one that's not worth much that you only paid $1 or $2 for at best. Again, with an image, I pay a lot more. With something unique like this, I'll pay a lot more. But if there's nothing in it, it's usually 50 cents. Now, most of the time when I run into these as well, most people don't know what they are when there's nothing in them. It's just a hunk of glass. I don't think I've ever run into one that was identified specifically as a paperweight when it was empty with nothing in it, just the glass portion of it. Uranium glass, too. There are some that are yellowish colored, similar to this, or have some kind of tint to it. Go alongs with the image inside or something along that line. So they light up, they fluorescent under black light. So some of those are exceedingly valuable. So even again, if the back's damaged or there's no image in it, it's still worth investing into for 50 cents, even maybe $1 at best, I would say. But the lowest I've ever sold an empty one of these for was $9.99. The highest has been the list price of $19.99, and that was for one of the domed ones. And I list those as magnifiers. You could literally take one of these right here, the domed ones, take the image out and sell it just as a magnifier if you really wish, because it does magnify and it does do a great job of it. So, and again, people do that with these. There's plastic versions they recreated, I guess, nowadays that basically it's the same thing, but it's like a chunk of plastic. Let's just look at a few just to give you an idea on the variety of these that do honestly and sincerely show up. I just showed you just a small handful of the ones that we get, and I've got quite a few more on a shelf back there as well. Now we're just in my store and we're looking at Terapeak. I've got paperweight and advertising. That's all I put in. Now, without the word advertising, you're going to see a ton of paperweights. I'm just trying to narrow it down just so you get the idea. But if you want to find a specific paperweight, its chances are going to have the name of whatever it is on it. So there's a ton of paperweights on eBay, but to find them specifically without sorting through a massive amount of them would be hard. So most people that buy a paperweight may just be buying the paperweight because of who actually is in it or what it's advertising for or something like that. Now there's collectors of just standardized paperweights like the handmade lamp work and things like that. Some of those can go for like $10,000. So in general, I'm always looking for paperweights, but just taking a quick look through here. Here's one from 1882, Barnes and Abrams, and it's a Silsby steam fire engine. It's a company, again, that makes them. Paperweight with just an advertisement like the one I showed you for the quack medicine, $1,237. And we've sold some just under $1,000, so I know that the value is surely there. Here's even another one of that exact same one. So if you look through here, you're going to see a ton of them. So here's one from the 1920s, the Yellow Taxi Company in Detroit. Just a perfect example. It's a pocket mirror as well. So it would be something that you could dual use. You just throw it on a desk somewhere, hold some paper, you use it as a mirror, put it in your pocket. The point being of some of these is to draw attention for usefulness. A paperweight is something you may use back in those days every day of your life at work, so if they made a paperweight advertising, you'd be more prone to see it and keep it. So that's basically why you will run into these. Now here's an encased dice advertising paperweight. So like the domed ones I showed you, there could be dice inside the center, just like the one I showed you as an advertising piece. Lumber company advertising. Some are brass, but glass-wise is what we're specifically talking about. Now, let's open one up just to give you an idea. In fact, let's grab a couple. There's celluloid ones, too. I've specifically talked about celluloid as well. So here's one for Rex Beer, and it's the same domed one that I have, the same basic dome. One of them that I have has a little beading on the inside. That's on the inside, the beading. And then it's mounted in there. Now here's the internal section. So as I said, it's just a chunk of felt in all these. Someone could have just literally put this together. It's not really easy to sell. Now this one says there's scratches on the top. Again, you can buff those all down. So anybody who's been into glass paperweights knows that, I would say. Now a buyer would pay far less for one with a bunch of scratches in it, but they'll probably fix it on up. So now here's another one just like the quack one that I showed you. Basically the same thing. It's basically printed or mounted into the back permanently with like a, I guess maybe as they said, an enamel finish across it. Enamel does bond to glass fairly well, so there could actually just be a piece of paper and then they've enameled over it. Again, some of these are made to come out. It's a piece of paper. This specific one, this is the way it was made. These are usually earlier. Late 1890s, I would gather, 1910-ish, 1920 at the very latest. Then they went to standardized ones where you could just slap a piece of paper, and they're far less expensive, easier to produce, and much cheaper, as I said, less expensive. So in general, these are just a couple examples of what you will find, what you will see out there, and the values that some of these can go for. Doesn't have to be just like this. The shape doesn't matter. In some cases, I've seen them figural shaped. Maybe it's shaped like the state of Texas or the state of Ohio. Some of them may be shaped into a silhouette of a head. There are some that literally are shaped like a feature or something that can still be glass. Ones in general that I like the best, though, are these that have an image on them or a photo or an advertising. Those are one of the easiest ones to sell because you don't need to identify the glass maker for you to be able to sell it for real good money. It's the advertising that's shown in it that carries the true value in these sorts of things. Well, there we have it. Hopefully that gave you some ideas, some thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell all your friends.
I've lost my head about red. The bold, bright, red, red you get when you use bold. Bold brightens reds with a colorful shower of blue, white, and green, brightening power. Red, 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 red. I mean exactly what I said. Red. If you like red, you'll like